Hey everybody, Shalom, and hope everybody's doing good today. It is our Monday study time, so I'm pretty excited to get back into reading with you guys now that I'm caught up from having missed 2 times with you all. So just a recap from last time. It's always good to always have that refreshing memory, so this way we can go on from where we had stopped, which was in chapter 3, and now we're on that part where we see Adam and Eve's fall happen from having listened to the serpents. But as a recap from what we read, it was the beginning, that's what it was about. When Father started his creation, we got to see what each day event, what took place during the time of each day. What formed each day. And then we got to see by the 7th day, that's when he took his rest. And then that was more or less it. That's how it started off. His garden was, it seems like his garden in a sense was separate to what he put Adam to start working at in a different location of Eden. So we got to see what more or less what his looks like, and then what Adam was to take care of in a different location. This is like paradise in Eden toward the east. And from the, let's see here. It says, but a river goes out, and this is on chapter 2, verse 10, but a river goes out from Eden to water the paradise. From that place, it separates into 4 sources. Okay, so we got to see more or less which location the rivers split off and where it's towards. We got to read that. And then we're back to where we stopped. What ended up happening. Well, we got to see, before we got to their fall, we got to see how Father saw that Adam was without a partner, and then created Eve from him. And when I got to that part, it made me think of kind of how, like, when he was creating his trees and seeds come from that tree. I look at Eve kind of being like, we came from Adam. Which is true, but I saw it more like the example of the tree producing itself. And so therefore, like, man, produces himself through seed. Of course, with man and woman coming together, but we see the first example, like tree-like example, metaphor, through Eve coming from Adam. And that's more or less how our children come from anyways. We need a male in order to make more children to come from him, from that tree. Metaphorically speaking, on man. Having read through it, I should have looked up the words quadrupeds. I don't know if you guys knew what that word was. I didn't know it. Of course, if I go to different versions of the word, it would have made it much more understandable for me. But I looked it up, and it's just a four-footed mammal. So I took time to look that up, and then that's more or less it. What I wanted to, kind of refresh before we keep moving forward. And I'll probably be doing that from time to time, because that's kind of like how I am on my study times alone. I always try to recap what did I read last with you, Father, so this way I can kind of know where the story keeps growing from. So I stay with the understanding of it really well. Okay, well, I just wanted to recap a little bit with you all before we get started, and now just want to invite Father in, so this way we get led by him to all the wonderful things that he's let us know from him, from his word. Abba Yehovah, we come before you, giving you praise and thanks today. Just being able to wake up and just have some time with you each day to get to know you more, for our relationship to grow more and more. The more we focus on you, the more, we can have those connections that we desire to see, by miracles and, wonders and hearing from you. A lot of things that we so desire, but sometimes because we don't fully put too much focus on you as we should, the more and more we feel you are distant. So I just love my one-on-one time with you, and I love to give myself over back to what my spirit needs. And I know that is you, Father. I need you to just teach me of your ways. And the only way to do that is if we come before you, where we see where your words manifest, where they come from, and that's holding the word that was written for us to have that connection. So I thank you for that, Father. As we journey in our study today, help us and give us, insights and hear where our heart is going in our understanding of you, and if it's going off course, help us to use the tools that are there for us to look at by those that took their time and put things together by their true definitions. You have so much things available for us to, come and find out much more in-depth understanding. So this way we have that much more of a closer connection to you, truth-wise. And you want us to serve you in spirit and in truth, as Yeshua has told us. That's what you want of us. And so we want to just give you that, Father. We want to give ourselves over to you in full submission, Father. In Yeshua's name, we thank you and we love you. Amen. Okay, so last we were at, I think I forgot. I did not. The 1 hour mark. Give Father our 1 hour attention. Not hard. If we go longer, then I like it. I enjoy that. Okay, we just got done where we got to see that the serpent asked Eve about um, about eating all the fruits. If Father had said that she couldn't eat of any of the fruits, but she just corrected him and told him that they were able to eat of all the fruits except for the one. And a lot of this, when we get into the Word, when I had to finally see Father for what He's all about, and it's just about hearing His voice in every detail, in every specific way He's saying stuff. So this way, when others come, to test our understanding, or those that are of His adversary side, cunning and crafty, like we see from the serpent, because that's where it all stems from. When you know fully what He's saying, then you're not so persuaded to fall. You have solid proof where to go and how to repeat what you've heard from Father by what you saw. And that's where it's at, is just paying good mind to what has been said to you. So this way, you just don't fall. And when Father's answer is just straight no, it doesn't matter what others may wish to speak on, I guess, on His behalf. You just know what He told you. It doesn't matter what someone else may say in regards to a different knowledge or understanding of Him. You just know what was said to you. So if she would have just held to what was spoken to her, even if she threw in that like do not touch kind of thing that so many say, well, she added right there, even if she would have just stuck to what she knew, He said don't eat and don't touch, she wouldn't have failed. She wouldn't have failed at what came next in her hearing. It tempting her, depending on what she was already even being tempted by, possibly. We don't know what was in the minds of them as they saw that fruit there for the grabbing. There, when I read on verse 6, okay, I don't know if many of you have this version yet to be following me by, so I'll read it, but those that have the same version as me, you'll know what I'm saying, regardless if I don't repeat where the verse is at. But for those that don't have it, that's why I'm going to say where it's at. The woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasing to the eyes to look at, and it was seasonable to look at. Well, when I read seasonable last time, I see that as that she saw it as it was ready for the pickings. But having went and read it from another version, it was like desirable, and it was desirable to look at, and more or less that's kind of how you look at fruit anyways, even whenever it's not linked to like what this is supposed to kind of teach us by in like a lustful state of what the serpent promised her by, that she was going to be like a god, knowing good from evil. But like even looking at what we do on, whether you have a garden or whether you're even at the store and you're picking out fruit, you feel the ones that are getting the most ripest, and the ones that that's the one that's ready to take home. It said it's ripest. You can feel the ones that are still like, nah, this is still too firm. It's not really there, so you put it back. Or even in your garden, you can tell which ones are a little bit more darker, ripe for the picking. And the ones that are still like bright colored are still like, that tart and bitter or sour taste if you were to pick it too early. So it fits either which way from how I look at this verse with the Septuagint and comparing it with the other versions out there as desirable, ripe for the pickings. And of course, it's more in the sense of getting us to understand what the serpent fed her by. That was kind of like that lusting point where she went after it. I guess wanting that same ability as Father. I did not too long ago post after I had read this to y'all. When I had read this before I came reading this part to you guys, something that came into my mind as I was meditating on it with Father, and that whole dying situation that she, Father had spoken to Adam and her that if they were to eat it, they shall surely die. But the serpent, when we read what he spoke about, in order that I'm trying to find it. Oh, when he says, "You certainly will not die." I think I showed you all last time that there was like a small portion at the bottom of the reading with much more in-depth definitions to those, and that one it's saying that he, in a sense, he was telling her in the literal that not by death you will die. So he was saying like that die that Father was speaking on, that they would surely die. He's like, you're not going to taste death by that type of die, And as I've come to know and to see and to study more, that there's a lot to Father that you have to define his words by. That's why it's important to really look into the meanings to his words, because what may seem to us by what we know in our understanding from like school, what we've been taught from school, or what we use as certain comments to say by catchphrases and whatnot, they're not one and the same to Father's descriptions, his meanings. There's so many things that can come from one of his words, and it fits in many different parts of his word, from different passages that will reflect which part that is meaning towards. And so the serpent was right in telling her, in a sense, that by death they weren't going to taste by that type of dying. And like I said, as we increase in our knowledge of reading Father's word, and we start connecting certain parts from going to a different book or whatever, a lot of things reflect back to this Garden of Eden incident. A lot of things point back as to what Father was truly meaning. And unless you have me on Facebook, you probably won't know what I shared out there. So in small summary to myself of what I shared, having an understanding now of Leviticus and where Father's laws are, and what what certain meanings he has by certain words he uses. Like I said, one word can have multiple different meanings to it just by one word. And so there's a part in Leviticus that when Father starts talking about cutting off people, cutting them off, and doing, a good search through the tools that are out there to explain more of what Father's words are by that. I've come to see that it can mean banishment, it can mean death, actual death. It can mean, to me, I even saw where it means like barren, to be cut off even by barren. He doesn't let you, have children. So there was another one, and I forgot it at the moment, but there's a lot of different ways you can see it. And so when I got to that point of reading that, and then having now come to this part, this understanding where the Septuagint points to the serpent literally meaning like by death you will not die. Having read those different meanings of cut off and death being associated with one, or it can also mean banishment. And then, of course, like I said, other scriptures that will explain or show you the example to it by certain people's situations where they got banished or they got cut off by death or they got cut off. There's the cut off by, I think, ailments or sickness, if I'm not mistaken, where he puts you out of the camp. But that I can't recall that fourth one. I'm still trying to figure it out. Sorry. But you see certain situations where each of those words can be seen by cut off. And so when I got to studying this, that's what led me to think, oh, okay, so it's not like Father didn't keep to his word, because a lot of times when we've seen where Father, says something, well, we think, well, why didn't he do it, And yeah, of course, we always want to point out that he is merciful and he is loving to where he had mercy on them, and so therefore he didn't take them out by death, and eventually they would have to taste death, he says it, they're not going to live long. Eventually they would end up going back to dust that they came from. And so, but we think that it didn't happen just like that, well, death didn't happen, and some can look as like, well, was he a liar? Or they can have so many different thoughts to him as like him not keeping to his own word, but when you read the cutoffs, like I said, and you see the different understandings to it, then honestly, he kept to his word, of course, he probably didn't go into explanation. Of course, they didn't understand it because had they truly known what was going to come, they wouldn't have done what they did. It's kind of like if a person knew what time the thief would come, in a sense, they would have been prepared. The main point is to always be prepared, and in this situation, it's always just to keep to Father's word regardless. Don't even put yourself out there to want to find out. Don't even put yourself out there to want to find out, is kind of like how I'm seeing it. If he says no, don't do it, don't do it. It's kind of like that whole in the movies where the red button that says don't touch, or don't push the red button, and because it's in your mind and you're just like, well, what happens if I just push the red button? Don't even get to that point. It's just better not to find out. But anyways, those are the examples that came to me. So when I got to that point, to me it made a lot of sense that Father did keep to his word. And yes, it still goes with the fact that he did have compassion on them. He could have wiped them out fully, but obviously it seems like because the serpent, when we read about him being a little bit much more, how does it say it? Give me 1 second. And that's like a long second. Okay, now the serpent was wiser than all the wild animals that were upon the earth that the Lord God made. And that is in verse 1 of chapter 3. Okay, and with him being wiser, he knew that they wouldn't die the death that they had in their mind, the word die. When Eve told him, that Father told them that, don't eat it lest they die. And like I said, with coming to the literal understanding that the serpent said that you certainly will not die, he's meaning you will not die. You will certainly not, by death you will die. So he knew that it wasn't going to be by death. So it seems like he knew exactly what would have come out, but he didn't explain that to her. He didn't say what type of die she would face the consequence by. And so to me, it just seems like that cutoff, when you get into Leviticus and you read of the different types of cutoffs, it seems like Father kept his word that they died by banishment, not abandoned, banishment. So, and so they got kicked out of the garden. But anyways, that's just to share in short of that, where it took me. But let's get on with it to gain more. I don't know where I had left off, so I'm just going to start back up in chapter 3, verse 1. The two were naked, both Adam and his wife, and they did not feel shame. Now the serpent was wiser than all the wild animals that were upon the earth that Yahweh made. And the serpent said to the woman, why is it that Yahweh said, you may not eat from every tree of the garden? See, there he is, trying to speak up for Father, but making something up, obviously. Why is it that God said? We know that God didn't say that. But he's speaking on Father's behalf, I guess. Not to keep cutting in with more different thoughts to it, but there was a teaching done by one of our ministers out there that he did a great teaching on speaking about false prophets and stuff, and he pointed out like the first sermon from a false prophet came from the garden, and he used this exact moment where the serpent twisted up to his, to his benefit to Eve what God had not said. He just twisted up, but he made it sounded like that's exactly what God said. So I thought that was really cool that he pointed that part out. But anyways, why is it that Jehovah said, "You may not eat from every tree of the garden"? The woman said to the serpent, "From every tree of the garden we may eat, but from the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, Jehovah said, You will not eat from it, nor may you touch it, in order that you might not die." The serpent said to the woman, and that's why it is good to know exactly what Father said, and just for down the road when it comes down to looking into like false teachers and stuff like that. It's always good to know exactly what you read. to Father won't give you a test or trial that he won't give you the escape route, and he is your escape route. So always know his word is best. Do not get yourself caught up in someone else's trap. The serpent said to the woman, "You certainly will not die, for Jehovah knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be as gods, who know good and evil." The woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasing to the eyes to look at, and it was seasonable to look at. And after taking some of its fruit, she ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and they ate. Then the eyes of the two were opened, and they realized that they were naked, and they sewed together fig tree leaves, and they sewed together fig tree leaves, and made for themselves loincloths. Sorry, a thought is just coming to me, but I have to see before I say it if it would be even good to think upon it. Okay, yeah. So here, if we go back to chapter 1, verse 27, and Jehovah made humankind, he made him according to the image of God, he made them male and female. And God blessed them, saying, Increase and multiply, and fill the earth, and gain dominion over it, and rule over the fish of the sea and of the birds of the heavens, and all the livestock, and all the earth, and all the creeping things that creep upon the earth. So, right here, the serpent, I don't know if he was considered a creeping thing, or as of yet, I know eventually Father does tell him, that he's going to go on his belly. So I don't know about when that transition had it, or took effect, of him being one way and then maybe it being something on his belly the rest of the way. I don't know what he kind of necessarily was. Looking at verse 27, seeing that this was said before this downfall. Okay, so they were given permission to have dominion over everything, the man and the woman. And right here, now seeing this, that's kind of makes me see that she also gave to her husband with her, and they ate, in the sense that they kind of seem like they were, when you have dominion over the earth, more or less you're doing things because Father. Okay, we also see that Father gave her as a helpmeet in chapter 2, because he saw that Adam was alone and that he needed a helpmeet. Okay, but we see in chapter 1, verse 27, that everything kind of seemed like it was already in formation. Okay, he already given her, like I said, I take chapter 1 as like a summary thing, and now we're just getting a bigger picture as to what took place. And so having that dominion and that helpmeet, it's like making decisions together. And right there, it kind of seems like they both didn't discuss it together. You know, she got told that they would be like gods, and we can see obviously that the man was with her as well, because it says she also gave to her husband with her, and they ate. So it's not like he was far away to not have put a stop to her. You know, they didn't make a choice together. She just heard what that serpent said, and instead of looking to Adam, who should have been someone to make, you know, a dominion type of decision here over this living creature, they both should have been in one accord to say, no, you know, Father told us not to eat it. I don't know, that just came to my head right now. And she also gave to her husband with her, and they ate. Then the eyes of the two were opened, and they realized that they were naked, and they sewed together fig tree leaves and made for themselves loincloths. So see right here, I don't see them running away from the place. I see them, I kind of feel like maybe the forbidden fruit, we've always been in question to what that was, is probably the fig tree itself. And Father having come to them, kind of seems like they were caught in the act. Sometimes, you know, children can be so quiet in your house, and you know there's something going on, because normally children are loud, you know, and they're just loud. But when they get to that quiet moment, you know, oh, I better go check up on what they're doing, and all you catch them in the act, you know, you catch them where the situation occurred. So I don't know if the forbidden fruit is really something that is a mystery much anymore. I kind of feel like maybe it was the fig tree. But Father, it's just my assumption still. But they made, anyways, going on, they made leaves, loincloths out of the fig tree leaves. Verse 8, they heard the sound of Jehovah walking about in the garden in the evening, and both Adam and his wife hid from the face of Jehovah in the middle of the tree of the garden. See right there, that right there, because we hadn't read further, and it says in the midst that she says in verse 3, but from the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden. So see, that tree was in the middle, and here it says it again. They hid from the face of Father Yova, in the middle of the tree of the garden. So it kind of seems that's what it is, the fig tree that we all mysteriously were in wonder towards, or that we didn't know. And Jehovah, in verse 9, and Jehovah summoned Adam and said to him, Adam, where are you? He said to him, I heard the sound of you walking about in the garden, and I was afraid because I am naked, and I hid. He said to him, who told you that you are naked? Unless you have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, from this one alone do not eat. Okay, so Father's restating what he knows he told him, you know. It's just like when you scold your child and you recap their memory, what you know you told them. Sometimes with my own children, I make them quote me back to me. I'll always tell them, what did I tell you? Just so that way I can see, okay, were they not paying attention at all? What could have been a distraction? But if I can see that they can quote me rather well when they've been caught by something, or even before I send them off to do something, I make sure they quote exactly what I don't want them to do when they're about to take off, and I'm not around to be, there to guard them or to stop them from doing something I know I'm not going to be pleased with. So, and if they can quote me back, then I know that they were hearing me that whole time. They just chose, not to remember me at that time. But here we see where Father says his own comment back to refresh his memory. Who told you that you are naked, unless you have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you? And here he says what he told them. From this one alone, do not eat. Adam said, the woman with me whom you gave, she gave me something from the tree, and I ate. Jehovah said to the woman, what is this you have done? The woman said, the serpent deceived me, and I ate. Jehovah said to the serpent, because you have done this, accursed are you of all the livestock and of all the wild animals of the earth. You will go upon your chest and belly, and you will eat earth all the days of your life. And see, and right there, that's when I kind of wonder what he kind of first looked like before he became that snake on just on his chest and belly. Can things be changed, by Father's hands? Of course, Father can do many signs and wonders. As far as transforming things, I don't have an example to give to that, but I know that unless it was just by like I don't know, maybe that was kind of like to bound him, one way of a punishment, like he wouldn't be able to stretch and keep his, I don't know, so many thoughts to be had on that, as far as like transforming someone into something else or something into something else, besides like the whole creation start. But this is still within possibly like the heavenly realm where things could be transformable, because I mean you do have the part, but of course that part where I'm thinking about Nebuchadnezzar's appetite changing and him eating like a wild animal. And then of course you have the donkey that speaks, but there's not transforming. But this is still within heaven's realm. And it's not to say that he can't still do it while we're here on earth, something of transforming. But because this is in Eden, where he was at, I don't know, maybe there is a different type of transformation that occurs. I mean, I've heard of some explain, like even Adam and Eve's body also took some type of different, alteration. It wasn't as it once was before. I don't know. But here we see Father getting mad and giving them punishments now. Okay, so you will go upon your chest and belly, and you will eat earth all the days of your life. I will place enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He will watch your head carefully, and you will watch his heel carefully. He said to the woman, multiplying, I will multiply your pain. I wonder if like multiplying, because he has it as a comma, multiplying. Like if this is the announced cursed, the announced curse. I don't know. Well, anyways, multiplying. I will multiply your pain and your moaning. You will bring forth children in pain. And your recourse will be to your husband, and he will be master over you. And he said to Adam, because you obeyed the voice of your wife and ate from the tree of which I commanded you. And here again, he repeats exactly what he said to him. Like, it's kind of like that expression that we hear now, and we kind of use it like as slight humor now. You only had just one job, I've seen that in memes and in movies depicting the humor of it, but this is not a humoristic moment. It's like sad, but in senses, it's kind of like Father was saying that to him, like you only had one job, and he's like, I'm gonna repeat exactly what I told you. So it's not like they didn't have constant explanation. He's like, from only this one, do not eat. You ate from that one. He's like, remember? Don't you recall how many times? So I kind of always, when I look at Father's situation and with his, his creation and his children, and we're no different than him. It's why we're made in his image and in his likeness. So we can look to how we respond and how we react to things. We're no different than our Father. So we should be a lot more understanding of him, and not fail him even in our own misbehaved moments of acting childish, rather than you know, understanding him on in that adult understanding. Um, so it's like even me, like when I want to make sure my children have fully gotten what I said, like I said, I make them repeat what I say, and I constantly, especially like if a plan is happening days in ahead, um, and I know we shouldn't always think to like plan things ahead, because tomorrow's never promised, but I mean we all do, and we hope. That's where is that we just hope that we get to that Father wills it for that set out plan, um, does get to come to pass. But if it's in advance, all the more am I making sure, and what did I say, this and that, always double checking that they understand my rules before I allow them to go any place and with anybody. Okay, so here we see him repeating himself again to Adam. Because you obeyed the voice of your wife and ate from the tree of which I commanded you. From only this one do not eat. You ate from that one. The earth is accursed by your works. And then when reading that, and that's really sad, it makes you think, because of what you do, everybody else suffers by what you do. The decision that you do, others will suffer by it. It's just like those that um, have a parent in the home that might be um, an alcoholic, just as an example to throw out there. And the once he or she has had their limit, becomes something totally different to what they're not when they're sober. Of course, it takes, and I've had my fair share of seeing those that, have a little much. Even my own experience when I've had a little more than what I should have. I've never really gotten drunk though. I've never gotten so bad to where it's like a different type of person comes forth out of me. Um, but I can't really function well. I'm like really like woozy or something like that. But I've seen where some can become a little bit um, mean, and then there are some that just become extremely happy, and then there's some that have put themselves to tears. I mean, just recapping certain emotions that I've seen come from people, but those that kind of go into like the more bitter side, the more angry side, um, take to now there's this wild beast within them, and they, I've heard stories. It's not, I've never witnessed, so I can only explain by story that I've either heard or even movie depictions where they become abusive, and everybody is now, suffering due to that. So it's like now he's like, because of your fault, now everything else is going down, is suffering because of you. Okay, so that's pretty hard to hear. It's really hard to hear. Such a dark example to give. I guess I could have went like with sports wise, when someone doesn't always show up to practice, and the team suffers by that, and when they finally do show up for game time, and they're not really like with it, like the team has been faithful, the ones that have been showing up to practices, and they're not really in there, and all of a sudden they're not catching certain things, they're not throwing at the right exact times that they should for, quicker speed, then all of a sudden the team loses. but because that one individual or certain individuals weren't making it to practice faithfully, now the team lost. It's kind of like that scenario. Maybe tone it down a little, but yeah, there's many examples to illustrate this one moment of Adam's hearing. In pain you will, but you ate from that one. The earth is accursed by your works, what you've done. In pain you will eat it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles will grow up for you. You will eat the herbs of the field. You will eat your bread by the sweat of your face, until you return into the earth from which you were taken. See, from dust you came, and from dust you'll go back. And into dust you'll go back. Because you are earth, and you will depart into the earth. Adam called the name of the woman Zoe, because she was mother of all living. Yehovah made tunics of skin. See, that's another part right there where he called her Zoe. In the other place, he called her woman because she came from him. But it seems like that one verse right there is like out of just like not in a spot that I would think it would have been. But anyways, let's go for it. I can think on thoughts too long. Yehovah made tunics of skin for Adam and his wife, and he put them on them. And so see right there, we can see animals now were killed on behalf of Adam and Eve. Skin comes from the animals. So now we see where the whole what once was is now no longer, where animals didn't have to face death themselves, but by literal dying, a killing. And now we see that they got killed right here on their behalf. Or unless, because I know a lot of people say, well, in the Garden of Eden, or in paradise, this portion of Eden, it was just about herbs and there was no eating of animals. But because we can see in the beginning that Father created heavens and earth, and because we can see the serpent ended up telling him, you're going to be like gods, kind of like one and the same to the understanding of knowing good and evil, like God. Who knows if that wasn't Father's, like even their taste, was going to be that of more similar to what Father understands by a different sort of food now, a different sort of craving now, and it not necessarily being a bad thing, necessarily is good, because he does give permission as to what meats we can have, but there was never like maybe that different hunger or different understanding for a different food group, where fruits and vegetables and herbs and all that was all they really needed. And now, because everything is now transforming into a different thing, maybe now their hunger was going to need much more of a different food group. And who knows, if Father is not one to enjoy animal, because I mean, eventually down the road, he ends up saying which ones to give to him. And so maybe now they understand that one. So maybe animals were an eaten thing, but only Father knowing of that sort, and therefore this killing of the animal isn't a new thing and necessarily through Father, but by what we see of it now, just for Adam and Eve, the necessity of it now. I don't know, just a thought there. I don't know. Okay, so Yahweh made tunics of skin for Adam and his wife, and he put them on them. And Jehovah said, "Look, Adam has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. So now may he never stretch out his hand and take from the tree of life and eat, and will live forever." So Yahweh sent him away from the luxurious garden to work the earth from which he was taken. So he threw Adam out and settled him opposite the luxurious garden, and stationed the cherubim and the flaming turning sword to guard the way of the tree of life. Okay, so Father, kicked them out, just like I had kind of put on my post. If any of you are friends with me, you would have read my comment there, so that now we can see where he was kicked out. Threw Adam out. That's what it says. He threw him out. So that's that type of cutoff, or that dying that they got to experience. In the day that they eat of it, they shall surely be banished. They shall be surely cut off. They shall surely die. And there's a lot to be thought on, even by, things that can be associated with it by conviction-wise, the regret, the stuff that and it's, if you feel like you're dying, all this stuff that you have to carry now. I think there's even a saying, even by Cain, where he even says, "This is too much," what well, we're going to get to Cain and Abel's story situation later. We're getting closer to it, but we'll see where, Cain is saying one and the same thing, like that dying, like you're dying of what you're hearing and what you're going to be going through, that regret, it's heavy. But that's just, you just can't forget what Father says, and especially when you read the word, you see a lot of why he repeats what he repeats. I used to wonder, and now I don't really need to wonder anymore, why Father in many verses, and in the same chapter, he repeats and he repeats and he repeats. But then you still end up seeing where the people still end up managing somehow to forget. They seem to just keep forgetting, but he keeps on repeating. It's amazing. But here we got to see where Father repeated himself to Adam, like, "Don't you remember? I told you, this one you shall not eat. So it's just something to always, this word has to be daily bread for us. Truly does. It has to be daily bread, always sharpening our mind, always recalling what he says, so we don't find ourselves going through, chastisements of what he still gives today. And that's that understanding of it. Let's see here. And so now, now they're out of this luxurious garden, where it probably wasn't strenuous at all to work at and to maintain for father. And now, it says he's opposite the luxurious garden, stationed. Where now, we just got to read that thistles and all that other stuff was gonna grow and make it much more harder for him to work at. In pain you will eat it all the days of your life. We're tired. We go to work tired. Just looking at what we do today for jobs to try to make, what they say by expression, make the dough or make the bread. Go get the bread. So in pain you will eat it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles will grow up for you. Remember, that's verse 18. You will eat the herbs of the field. You will eat your bread by the sweat of your face. You will return into the earth from which you were taken. Okay, so moving on. We are now in chapter 4. Oh, it's in, they can never go back. They can't go back. And, of course, until they take on the immortal body when they finally get to die and then return. His father didn't want them, before we go on to chapter 4, sorry, he didn't want them to take the fruit of life, and take on that, I guess, the immortal state. I don't know how to look at the fruit of life, just like that, to always live in this corruptible manner now that they defiled themselves with what he didn't let them have. It's not to say that the fruit itself was not a food group, possibly, but he just didn't want them to have it. And you can see it was a mixed fruit of good and evil. And Father's all about doing good and obeying and in order. As we get further down, we'll see Father exactly like that. And that mixed fruit defiled them. And he was like, no. We get to see Father in his specifics. What is clean, what is unclean, by that of what is food, what is not food, what is for us to have and not to have, what to be doing, what not to be doing. He's specific, and this is not what he wanted for them. So he didn't want them to eat the tree of life, and live forever by it, and will live forever. So like that immortal state, that is in verse 22. So now may he never stretch out his hand and take from the tree of life and eat, and will live forever. So I guess that tree of life would be that to be immortal in this corruptible, defiled life. Well, that takes care of our study time. See, we didn't even get past chapter 3. That's how much you can go on, so much understanding with Father. Of course, possibly not so much if you're barely starting off with the Word. So I'm sorry for those that probably are just probably barely opening up their Bible for the first time, and you're probably like, where is all her mind coming from? I know I said it last time, but again, to just repeat it, is that I have read the Word from, cover to cover, all the way from the beginning all the way to the end. And so now, kind of where I'm at, it's just a lot of things are just flooding back from what I know and where it's at now, and now I can see it pointing back to this situation in Genesis. Now rereading it all over again, and that's what's the beauty about it. When we finally complete it, you're gonna be able to see where the disciples and Yeshua and everybody was pointing to when they, reference certain parts from the Old Testament portion of the Word. And so, yeah, that's why when I go off and I'm talking, before you all, of course, but with Father, so I'm recapping everywhere else where it suits this situation. And it's like, wow, so much connection. But anyways, that's why even you can even read one small. It's just like I told you guys with my husband reading right now in Psalms. He can read one small thing of Psalms, and even just, I forgot which one it was, the shortest one that he read. There was just so much that could be said from it. So, and that is the beauty of it with Father, in that relationship, fully knowing what he says, and then where other places of what he has said to others kind of all connect to just one understanding of him. You either do or you don't do it, just to stay on obedience with him. But it's beautiful. So I just pray that your understanding, anyways. I pray that what I bring by my understanding, my insights, are sharpening yours and bringing back stuff, and just having fun on this walk with Father, and just being able to talk to him and to hear someone else's thoughts and opinions to it, and possibly you to be able to build upon. That's what I love about the Father's community that he has led me to. I can hear everybody and I can see where they're at, and then not only that, I can take from them and help build, much more to my understanding. And we're just being with Father it's a blessing, and I pray many more will come to realize that he is easy to love. Truly is. He's easy to love. We take the time to really get to know him. But anyways, that takes care of our study time. Our hour is done, and I pray you all are blessed for the week. Abba Yehovah, I want to come before you, giving you thanks for what we just have studied. May we always see your word and just take our time with you. I know I've done my fair share of reading you way too fast, sharing what I understood then way too fast, and come to see that I was the one the most in error. If not all, I was like totally in error. So I'm just happy with the fact that there have been many that have just stayed patient with me, and have shown me how to go about gaining an understanding slowly. Things don't always have to be caught on way too fast, because sometimes we all want a shortcut. There's always that, like, wanting to kind of shortcut because we feel like we have gotten the full context, the full understanding of it, and then just run with it and think that we're doing something good by what we have gotten from you. And you're sending so much signs our ways, to showing us, like, slow down, don't say that before we upset you. But we don't. We end up falling. But that's kind of what life does. You have shown us that we do tend to want to learn the hard way. But what's beautiful is that you're merciful, you're long suffering, and you still love us, and want to keep trying to get us to come back to doing things properly. So I thank you for your patience all the time, Father, and for your peace and the comfort when we finally get to that point of realizing, hey, I don't have to have it all figured out, you know, baby steps, and just be mindful uh, to who I'm around. You have workers always around us, and we just tend to learn to listen. We can see where you're trying to guide us next, and always pointing us back to your word, and Yeshua, seeing what he did and how he done it. And we just practice that, and it gets much more easier, Father. So I just pray that what I have spoken today um, brings uh, many more to want to go and continue and searching much more things out, and connect to you in stronger efforts, because loving you is not a hard thing, Father. We make it out to be a hard thing, especially if we're closed-minded, and want to just stay stuck on thinking that you'll approve us just having a spiritual faith. We just think upon you, and we just say the word, we believe in you, and that's all that would matter to you. But that is not so. We want a relationship, and that is when we come to reading your word, to take our time, that you will meet us where we're at to help us to understand you. So I thank you, Father, for this time with you, and I pray for all my brothers and sisters out there that are trying to do your will to their best, uh, to the best of their ability, and that they keep on trying to keep doing much more and give more to you. In Yeshua's name, Abba, I love you so much. Amen. You all have a blessed week, and I shall see you guys next Monday, and maybe hopefully again during the week. If not, until then, have, may Father and Messiah be your comfort. Love you all.